Welcome back to the show, everyone. I am excited to have you here today, talk about some things that we're going to go into. And if you've ever struggled with finding what your purpose is in life, with understanding who you are and knowing what you want to do, then this is the episode for you. I'm going to be speaking about things that I've learned and rules that I live by that have helped me identify those things. So, without further ado, everybody, let's jump in. Oh, hell yeah. It's another episode, guys. I am happy that you're here, that you're taking some time to spend with me, your best friend, Brett. And it's going to be a good episode. I've been thinking a lot recently about some things that have just been on my mind, like what does it mean to understand your identity and those kind of things. And you might think to yourself, that's a weird topic for you to cover, Brett. And it might as well, I don't know, it might be. It might be a weird one. But it's something that I believe everyone needs to understand what your identity is, who you believe you are, what you think your purpose is. Oftentimes, myself included in this, we feel like that we get lost, right? We forget what our purpose is in life. And sometimes those periods where we're in that phase of what am I supposed to be doing? Where do I go from here? It feels like they go on for a long time. It always ends. You always pick back up and you always get back into routine. If you're someone who focuses on that and tries to get better consistently. But when you identify what your values are, when you identify what your purpose is, then those times where you feel like you're not doing much allow you to reflect on where you can improve and what you can do to be getting better. Because if you're here on this world and you're not focused on progressing and getting better every single day, then what are you doing? That's the whole reason why we're here, is to grow, to get better, and to become the people who we're meant to be. And it's important to think about where you want to get. And once you identify what your values are, what your mindset is, it makes it a lot easier. It provides direction. And like I said, I think this answer is going to differ, and it's going to differ between people. Like, this is going to be a very deeply personal exercise that I'm going to ask you to do at the end of this. But I'll talk about my own here first, and then allow you to take some time to think about it yourself. Now, I've wrote down just a few things in my journal that I'll probably look to here to help me through this podcast. But for some, like, the pursuit of power or wealth defines their purpose. And that's fine. It's their own compass. But for me, the measure of a man or woman, it lies on a different scale. And this is what I've been reflecting on. Like, what makes a good person? What makes a good person in society? Is it power and money? Because if it is, then I'm not a great person. I don't have a lot of power. I don't have a lot of influence. I am doing fine financially, but like, I'm not Elon Musk, not Bezos, one day, but not today. Definitely not. So if I'm defining my worth on money or power, then from an outside perspective, I'm pretty worthless. Like, it's not a good measure to put yourself into. I don't think you should be measuring your life in that way. Of course, everyone's different. Like I said, like, some people's goals might be focused solely on obtaining power and wealth. And that's fine if that's your goal. Everyone's going to have their own priorities and own wants. But for me, I've thought about the 6 things that I am passionate about, that I want to focus on, and that I believe are the definition of what it means to be a good person, a good human being. It's funny, one of my mentors, his name's Bryce. When I first met him, it was about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. And he came into our team meeting. We're all these sales guys, and he was the vice president of business development. pretty much telling us like, hey, we need to have a strategy for what we're doing. We need to talk about the things that are working for us so we can all learn from each other. And he pretty much said that he has these rules that he lives by, and he calls them literally the warning rules to live by, because his name is Bryce Warning. And that has always stuck with me. Like, I remember thinking to myself, how did this guy sit down and think about what's important to him? And it was things like, don't be a jerk, like treat other people nicely. It was things like, be your own best version of yourself daily, serve and give to others. And it was just interesting to see my new boss walk in and say, hey, this is how I got to this point, was because I've always lived by these principles. And I'm sharing them with you because that's how much that they've helped me. And ever since then, I was like, well, what are my own principles? And it's taken me a long time to really identify what it is. So we're going to get into my own. But I think it's cool to call it something cool. Call whatever rules that you live by something cool. Like Bryce's was Warning's Rules to Live By. That's a cool name. I call mine the Reaper's Creed because I call myself the Running Reaper. And I think that's a cool name, so I went with it. Anyways, we'll jump into this. So the first one that I came up with on my own about how to be a good person is a man's word is his bond. And if you're a woman, obviously a woman's word is her bond. But I think a good person lives up to their word. And that sits at the top of my list because trust and reputation are built on this entire foundation. Is if you can live up to your word. If you say that you're going to do something and then follow through. Once your word falters, your influence will crumble. And I think if you think about someone who you rely on. Think about someone who you could pick up the phone, call at any moment, and if they're available, they will come and help you. Or think also about the people who, set plans with you. They're like, hey, you want to go out to lunch on the 15th? I'll be in town. You're like, yeah, for sure. 15th comes around, and right an hour before lunch, they're like, hey, actually, I can't make it. Like, oh, okay. Well, I planned my day around this, but that's fine. And so that's how quickly it can crumble. And when people know that they can rely on you, when they trust that what you say, you'll do it, doors will open. Honor your word and the world will honor you in return. Honor your word. The world admires that. And so if you want to get further ahead in life, ask yourself, are you living up to your commitments? Are you saying that you're going to do something and actually follow through with it? Or are you sitting on the sidelines and just say that you'll do something, and when it comes and you actually have to step up and do it, you don't want to. It's hard for you. Honor your word. That's my first one. And the second one, not going to be for everyone. Again, these are personal values. Mine, number 2, is to have a spiritual backbone. And this list isn't in order of importance, by the way. But I do think that a word, like living by your word, is it should be number 1. But anyways, having a spiritual backbone. To me, there's a lot of power in seeking the divine. You could say that's God. You can say that's a greater power that you believe in. Whatever it is. But a man of faith doesn't live for himself alone. That kind of person will walk a path that leads beyond this world. If you believe in the afterworld, if you believe that we have a second life after death, if you believe in the afterlife. So faith provides me strength during my own trials. It provides me guidance for my family. And it gives me hope when I am in moments of despair. But for me, knowing that God is directing my life helps me, one, when things don't go my way, I have to trust that whatever goes on from here is going to be the best for me. And it's going to make me the person that God wants me to become. I firmly believe that. And when I do face trials, when I face these hardships, I rely on my faith. And I know that Jesus Christ has been in this spot before. And if he's been through it, then I know I can rely on him and get through the same situation. I firmly believe that if you focus on yourself throughout life, then you will have a pretty sad existence. Like, you need to make sure that you're doing what you can to help other people along the path. One of the many reasons I do Getting After It is because I've learned a lot of lessons over the years that I think can help other people who are either starting their own journey or want to improve their current situation. And if I was living my life only thinking about myself and how I can grow, while that's crucial and critical, and that's the whole concept of getting after it, is to work on yourself. You need to give that work that you've done, that you've put in, and it's made you become a new person. You need to give back to the others. You need to give back to those that you love. And if you have faith in God, or if you believe in a higher power, then that should make it a little bit easier too. Because whenever I think of someone that is in need, I think of Christ, and he can't be the one that's going to help him. So maybe I need to step in and go assist. But my testimony started as a seed. My testimony of God started as a seed. And that's how typically everything starts, is very small. But it requires daily nurturing, and you have to be patient, and it takes time to grow. But one day, that little seed becomes a towering oak, and it's deeply rooted, it's unshakable, and becomes a prominent landmark in the forest. That's what faith is. And it takes a long time to get to that point, but it's something that I've learned throughout my entire life, that you should never give up on your faith. And when I was sick, when I was going through that whole hardship, that's one thing I did not do, was give up on my faith. In fact, I was stronger in the gospel because of it. And not everyone's going to resonate with that, I understand. But again, these are just things that have helped me. And this is my own personal creed. The Reaper's Creed, baby. But number 3 goes along with that, and it's the art of learning to sacrifice. And that might seem weird. Why would you need to learn how to sacrifice? Well, life demands it. Life demands you to make sacrifices, and that could be time, it could be money, it could be your possessions. And at times, you might have to sacrifice relationships. If you're in a toxic relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, or there's members of your family who are demanding too much, you might have to sacrifice those relationships. You might have to cut them off. And it's not about loss. Like, don't think of sacrifice as a loss. It's about prioritizing what truly matters to you. And so going back to time, if you truly value being a good spouse, then you're going to have to sacrifice some of your own time, because relationships are only built through consistent conversation, through trust, and living up to your word. And that's the only way that you can grow and develop in a relationship, in my own personal opinion and experience, is you have to prioritize what truly matters to you. It might be a hard conversation for you to actually sit down and think about, because last Thanksgiving, I had to do this isn't 2024, this is Thanksgiving 2023. I had to sit down and reprioritize my whole life. As weird as that might sound, but it's the truth. I was newly married. I was 2 months into marriage, and I was still very selfish. I was trying to hit my own goals and not necessarily focusing on Allie's, which is a regret that I have to this day. But I had to sit down in last November and really think about what I'm focused on and what's important to me. Because if it's my wife, like I said it was, I shouldn't be focusing so much on myself and pumping so much into my fitness and not allowing myself to have the energy to be the spouse I need to be when I'm done at the end of the day. If I'm working so hard at the gym, and then I work so hard at work, and then I get home and I'm so tired I can't even have a conversation with Allie, that's not a good husband. These are all my opinions. That's just how I feel. So I redid all my priorities. I said, okay, well, these are the things I want to be important to me. What do I need to do to make them look like that? What do I need to make them to to make it more of a focus of my life. And it could look like a wide variety of things. It could be putting down your phone to engage with your wife or your husband. It could be mentoring someone who needs direction. It could be giving to your church. It could be sacrificing your time to record a podcast and discuss things that are important to you so other people might learn something from it and help them along the way. I just like doing this podcast. It's not that much of a sacrifice. I love you guys. But sacrifice teaches us to forget ourselves and think of others and give to others. And it's not a weakness. In my opinion, it's the mark of a true man. It's the mark of someone who has learned what it means to be strong, to give back, and be there when people need them. Learn how to sacrifice. This next one, all about discipline, baby. You know how much I love discipline. It might be my favorite word. Although patience has grown in my favor as well. I like that word too. Anyways, discipline is the backbone of achievement. It's what gets you started. I've said it before, I'll say it again, but discipline is what gets you started, and consistency gets you across the finish line. Let me requote that. Discipline is what gets you started. Consistency gets you across the finish line. You have to push away the weak thoughts of getting started and just do it. I was talking to my wife a couple days ago, and for the past couple months, I've been talking about how I'm starting a website for Getting After It. And that way, all my content's there. My writing, I'm going to start publishing that on there. My podcasts themselves and videos and whatever. Like, I'm going to have everything there, Getting After It hub. And this week, I was talking to my wife, and I was getting all excited because, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, this is the week. I'm going to make Getting After It a real website. I'm going to make this thing happen. And so I tell her this, and I'm like, Al, I'm going to make it my weekend project to get this website done. And she goes, it's about time. You've been talking about it for a while. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. I have been. And I had to ask myself, well, why have I not started? And to be honest, it's just because I wasn't disciplined enough to do it. Like, I didn't want to sit down and get it done because I know how much work is going to get into it. It's going to take a lot of time. But last night I started, and I got about a quarter of the way through building this website. And so the whole point of telling that story is I just needed discipline for one little moment to kick in and allow myself to realize that building a website isn't as bad as I think it is. And it goes back to what I love from Seneca, where he says, we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. And that's pretty much what I was doing. I was thinking about, oh man, this is going to be a hard thing to do. I'm going to have to put a lot of time into this. Maybe I'm not the best at building websites, so I'm going to run into some roadblocks. And I'm just thinking about these things in my mind. But when I sat down and actually did it, it wasn't that bad. And it's the same thing with like early morning runs. The tough choices and the ability to say no to things like temptation, like that all requires discipline. It's rare in today's world, which is exactly why it is so powerful. Pain is temporary. It will always end. And the strength discipline builds will carry you. It will carry you far beyond what your fleeting pleasures ever could. Because everything has an end. All the worldly possessions that you might have, if you are addicted to food, if you smoke a cigarette, if you buy a new pair of shoes, whatever it is, every single one of those things will come to an end at some point. Cigarette, I don't know how long it takes to smoke a cigarette, but maybe 30 seconds. The food, depends on how fast you eat, but it could be 15 minutes. And then the shoes, could be a couple months. And then guess what? You're buying another pair. You're pulling out another cigarette. You're going to McDonald's again to get the drive-thru. Those are all fleeting pleasures. They will not last. And if you try to find joy in them, your joy is going to be fleeting. If you put your joy in things that aren't going to last, what are you doing? Honestly, what are you doing? Money, That won't last. You can't determine your self-worth based on possessions and wealth and influence and that kind of things, because it all comes to an end at some point. And so when it does come to an end and you're faced with the realization that now you don't know what's fulfilling, that's a scary place to be in. And it's why discipline is so important to me, because it's not easy to wake up and go on a run. But I know when I do it, I feel better about myself, and I feel better and more amped to take on the day, take on life's challenges. It's hard to sit down and build a website, but I know once that is done, it's going to be a game changer for getting after it. People are going to be able to go to the website and actually see things and learn and hopefully change their own lives. And a little caveat to that, the website eventually will end. Like, someone's not going to take care of it. Someone's not going to update it. And that's fine. That's just the way life goes. Everything comes to an end, even ourselves. It's not meant to be morbid. It's just reality. And you need to make sure that you're doing what you can to be disciplined and make the harder choices now so you have a better life when it comes to it. Like, make the hard choice now. If it's you're about to make a bunch of cold calls, but you don't want to, get some discipline. Just sit down and just do it. Get it done. Because when you get it done, you're not going to think about it anymore. Because guess what? It's done. You don't have to. Don't worry about it. And that's important. That's important to understand. Now, last thing I'll say on discipline. Jocko has this thing he says, discipline equals freedom. I bring it up every 4 podcasts, I think. I love this topic, but it is the truth. Like, if you want to be financially free, if you want freedom in your finances, then be disciplined in your spending. Be disciplined in your saving. Be disciplined in your investing. Do all the things you know you need to do, but don't want to because it's hard. And that's all I'll say on discipline. Number 5 for me is patience over instant gratification. So, wait. Learn how to wait. Patience, like I said, has become one of my favorite words because it whispers to you, be still, work hard, and wait. True growth, whether in your marriage, whether in your health and fitness, in your personal goals, it requires time. And you plant the seeds and nurture them, just like your faith, not for today's reward, but for tomorrow's bloom. You have to wait. You have to learn how to be patient, which, again, is rare in today's society, and that's what makes it so powerful. People want things now. TikTok has done this to us. Amazon, fast food, DoorDash, anything. Like, you can get something delivered right now. And I think that's ruined a lot of us. It's ruined the art of understanding how to be patient during trials, during times of struggle, during growth periods where you're waiting to see the results come through. Let me give you an example. I cannot tell you how patient I have to be with this podcast. I want 1 million followers, sure, whatever it is. I want people to learn and change their lives and get better because of hopefully things that I've learned and have taught. But that's going to take years. It's going to take me so long. I listened to Chris Williamson talk about his own experience where he was doing podcasts for 3 years where he'd get sometimes 0 plays on an episode. And now he has one of the largest podcasts after, I think, 6 years. And I'm pretty sure he has like 3 million subscribers on YouTube. And he has all these really interesting guests on. He just had Matthew McConaughey. All right. And it's only because he was consistent. He stayed in it and he was patient the whole time. And he enjoyed the process. Just like this, I enjoy doing these things because it, again, helps me learn, helps me study, stay focused, and then hopefully help someone that might be in need. But learning how to be patient is crucial. And you can start small with this. Like, one thing that I do all the time is if I ever feel like I'm hungry or if I'm craving something, I'll wait like 15 minutes. If I'm still craving it, I'll drink some water and then wait another 15 minutes. And then if I'm still craving it, I'll go eat it or whatever. But usually that passes, and it's only because it teaches you how to be patient. So try that. And to quote one of my favorite members of my church, Dieter F. Uchtdorf, he tells a story. There was this study done. I'm sure everyone's heard it, but I learned it from him, so credit's going to him. But the marshmallow test, where all these kids were brought into a room, and they were all given one marshmallow. But they were all told to wait for 15 minutes, and they would get a second marshmallow. So they would have two. Or they could just eat it and only eat the one. And so a bunch of kids ate the marshmallow right away. But a lot of them also waited for 15 minutes to get two marshmallows. The study goes on to follow these children throughout their lives, and they noticed that the people who were successful, who lived happier lives, better marriages, better jobs, higher paying jobs, were the ones that were able to wait during those 15 minutes. Practice something like that today with yourself. Don't give in to all your desires. Don't give in to the negativity that you might be feeling when people are telling you not to pursue your dreams. You don't become Leonardo da Vinci in a year. You become Leonardo da Vinci in 15, 20. Like, if it's your passion, don't stop. Do not. Because people's passions make the world beautiful. And without it, we'd all be gray, cookie-cutter people that are incredibly boring and like normal SpongeBob. We'd be talking to people like, "Hi, how are you? Wonderful weather we're having." And no one wants to live in a life like that. That would be a horrible world. Follow your passions and be patient while you do. The last one that I'm still working on, but I have realized is very crucial to any success in life, is adaptability over rigidity. I've always been someone who loves a schedule, who likes to have structure and wants to make sure that everything goes to plan. You know, I don't like it when things get out of their structure, pull away from what I originally anticipated. I don't like that. But life rarely goes to plan. And while structure is valuable, rigidity, it can hinder your own growth if you're not able to be adaptable. And how you adapt to disruptions, in my opinion, reveals your character. Do you crumble or do you pause, breathe, and pivot? Growth lives in the unpredictable. It really does. There's times in everyone's life where things will go wrong. But during those times also presents an opportunity to grow, to get better, to not let it hold you down, to not let it determine what your self-worth is based on a loss or not getting where you want to be at. And so I think it's important to learn when things don't go your way, when things are difficult, what are you going to do to adapt? How can you improve the situation? That's always something that I think you should ask yourself is, what can I be doing to improve my given situation? And I think the more you talk to yourself like that, the more your brain will try to solve whatever issue is that you're going through and maybe provide some insights that you hadn't originally thought of. So that's the Reaper's Creed. Those are the 6 rules that I think are crucial for my life to go the way I want it to. But becoming a strong human, it requires intention and effort and sacrifice. Every single decision you make matters. When you're faced with 2 choices, always choose the one that moves you closer to your goals, no matter how challenging it might be. Forget yourself and live for something greater. Live for love, for others, and for the example you can set. Kill off your bad habits. Grow stronger with each passing day, and ensure you achieve your goals without fail. Be unbelievably persistent. And I want to challenge you all to sit down and think about what rules you want to live by. What's important to you? What values do you find most important in today's age? And how can you influence others for good? Think about the rules and write them down. And if you want to share them with me, send them to me as a DM. I would love to hear them. And be honest with yourself during the process. That's the only way it's going to be successful, is you have to understand what's actually important to you. Think about that. I appreciate everyone for listening. This is it's fun trying to think about ways that I can provide value to you all. Not saying that I do, but I think it's fun just to think about it. But I think, not every day will feel victorious. Some days there'll be silent battles and no visible reward. On these days, remember, the fight itself is the victory, because you're not giving up. So start today. Pick one principle. If you don't write out a step, just pick one principle, define one step, get after it. Build your own code and live it every single day, and be who you are on purpose. I appreciate everyone for listening. If it's helped you in any sense, please share it with someone else. And keep getting after it, everyone. You guys are putting in amazing work. And until next episode, everyone, take care. Get after it. Boom. That deserves 4 booms.